Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. With the last video's release, I asked you guys to vote for what you wanted to see next between Zulrah and Vardorvis. I got the results in, and it turns out you guys really wanted to see me die a bunch at Vardorvis. This week's average loot video will be 1 hour of loot from Vardorvis as an average player. I hope you guys enjoy, and feel free to leave a like if you did. Just like every other one of them, I'm going to start with the requirements. Vardorvis is a very melee-intensive boss, and it really is a bit of a step up from the likes of Vorkath or Zulrah. For quest requirements, you're going to need to complete a Desert Treasure 2, which is an amazing quest that I would recommend completing even if you don't plan on fighting any of the new bosses. The nice part is the walkthrough should be available on Quest Helper now, so you don't need to do it ye olden way swapping between the wiki and the client. I'd also suggest completion of A Kingdom Divided to unlock the use of the full Arceus spellbook, allowing the use of Thralls and Death Charge. Completion of Fremennik Exiles to use the Natiz Not Face Guard if you plan to use one is a great one too. Completion of Dragon Slayer 2 is also great here to unlock the use of Ferocious Gloves to really get the most damage you can. You're also going to need to complete the Fight Caves for the Fire Cape, but more than likely you've already got that at this stage in your account. If you've made it this far, we can see the stats finally. You're going to need at least 82 attack to wield the Fang for this, and the wiki does show that an Abyssal Tentacle Whip works here as well. I've tried it in the past, and it was just a step above useless, so I would avoid it unless you're an Iron Man who hasn't gotten lucky at TOA yet. For strength, at least 85 will more than likely do it. For defense, at least 70 is going to be where I would recommend. 90 hit points for the average player would be a pretty good starting point. You're also going to need at least 70 prayer for piety. Lastly, 80 magic to use Death Charge and Thralls, with higher being better so it makes those spells last longer. The fun part for this boss is gear, which can get pretty expensive pretty quickly. I'll be showing two setups that can work for this depending on your budget to kind of help, and also throw in where I would recommend upgrading to make life easier here. The first setup is going to be a pretty budget-friendly setup, and what I'll be using for the hour here. This consists of a Serpentine Visage, Blood Fury, Fighter Torso, Obsidian Plate Legs, Barrow's Gloves, Dragon Defender, although I'm using the Avernic, a Lightbearer Ring, Blessing of your choice, and the Asmunten's Fang. In total, this setup costs just about 103 million GP, including the Ancient God Sword, or 52 million without it. This setup is pretty much what I would recommend as the minimum for learning this boss, since you get pretty good damage output out of it for relatively low cost, especially compared to the other setup. This will be a Natiz Not Face Guard, Bandos Chestplate and Tassets, Blood Fury, Dragon or Avernic Defender, Lightbearer, Asmunten's Fang, Blessing, and Ferocious Gloves. This is obviously a huge cost increase, but it does help out with damage and prayer more over the first setup, with a 5 prayer and strength bonus over it. The second setup is a lot more costly, at 184 million with the Ancient God Sword, or 134 million without it, but I personally use it and recommend it if you can get the gear for it. The inventory will be mostly the same for both setups, with the exception being to bring more or less prayer potions to help sustain the trip, although I found that 4 is a pretty good number to bring with. Starting from the top, your special attack weapon, Divine Super Combat Potion, prayer potions, a matching amount of anglerfish to the prayer potions, food, a teleport to your house or bank, a charged Ring of Shadows, a rune pouch filled with 4 of the 5 runes needed for Thralls and Death Charge, the 1 or 2 runes that don't fit into your pouch, and the rest food. As I mentioned, you do want to balance the anglerfish you bring with the amount of prayer potions that you bring, so that way you can heal before each kill and not have to worry about wasting time eating during the kill. For special attack weapons, in order of what I would recommend, would be the Ancient God Sword, the Crystal Halberd, the Dragon Dagger, and lastly, a defense-lowering weapon such as the Bandos God Sword or Dragon Warhammer. Another possibly good special attack weapon that I haven't tested out could be the Saradomin God Sword, due to restoring hit points and prayer. I strongly recommend acquiring the Ancient God Sword over any part of the second setup, as its special attack deals a flat 25 damage to the boss, and heals you for that as long as you hit anything over a 1. Getting to the boss can be pretty annoying without the Ring of Shadows, but it's not impossible to do. I recommend to eat an anglerfish and sip stamina before going out to make your journey, to make sure you don't take too much damage from the strangled, and the stamina is a bit of a hike to get there, regardless of the method used. If you aren't able to use a Ring of Shadows, either use the Zarek's Talisman teleport to the Chambers of Zarek, or the fairy ring code BLS and take the boat, and follow the route shown on screen. As I mentioned before, Vardorvis is a lot harder than other bosses that I've covered so far, and really has a strong potential to make you sit faster than you can be angry about it happening, speaking from experience. During the kill, there's a few special attacks that he can do that will stack out your health, and in order of importance to me, it'd be firstly the head, followed by the axes, the spike attack, and lastly, the blood capture attack. To avoid the head attack, all you need to do is protect from ranged before the projectile hits you. If not, your overheads will be turned off for one attack from Vardorvis, and you'll lose some prayer points. The axe attack is a little bit more tricky until you get it down, and it sounds really simple in explanation, which is just to avoid the axes. If all 3 axes spawn on the side you're on, just run to the left or right where they won't go to, and you'll be fine. Also, I wouldn't worry about trying to change prayers to protect from melee if the head attack occurs at the same time, as you're just going to get hit with it anyway, so it's better to run and avoid damage than to just waste food on it because you switched the prayer. Finally, the spikes can be easily avoided by hanging out in the middle of the 4 sides on the outside of the arena. If you're not hanging out there, it's still pretty easy to avoid just by moving out of the way to a corner or stepping at the exact same tick that it occurs. And for the last special attack, the blood capture attack can happen, and this one is super chill. He'll freeze you with a little audio cue, and all you have to do is click the clots that show up reasonably quick. You can also tell when it's going to happen because he won't hit you with any other special attacks for a short period of time. Once the audio cue happens, if you right-click Vardorvis as soon as it happens, you can click on the attack option once the captcha appears to continue attacking while dealing with the clots. Alternatively, once you're frozen, if you didn't attack him for extra damage, you can just eat some food while out of combat and keep up your attack cycle. Don't forget to take care of the clots though. Basically, you can either get an attack in for free or eat for free. Once he gets low on health, Vardorvis goes into a bit of an enrage phase, just like all the other Desert Treasure 2 bosses, where his attacks occur more often, and at times, you'll have 2 or 3 happen at the exact same time. Just keep a level head, and you'll be alright. During the hour here, I managed to get 20 kills in an hour, and of course did not receive any uniques. And speaking of uniques, if I were to go on right here for a tradable unique with 20 kills an hour, I'd be looking at just under 7 hours per unique, which does kind of hurt. And also keep in mind I did not reset the loot tracker as the big number makes me happy, and instead of before and after screenshots from the boss. I made about 1 million GP here during the hour, which just goes to show that without uniques, Vardorvis' loot table is a bit weak and more in line with other bosses whose main source of loot is the uniques. And I also did forget to reset the supply tracker until about halfway through the kills, but I used about 400k in supplies, just doubling the second half's supply usage. And that does get a little bit negated, just like all the other Desert Treasure 2 bosses, because Vardorvis drops food and prayer potions pretty often. I did also have 2 deaths here, costing 32,000 for the first and 22,000 for the second, since I remember to turn on the Protect Item prayer. And finally, I used about 700 charges on my Blood Fury, which would total around 302k in charges alone. All in all, did end up making about 200,000 in profit in the hour of killing Vardorvis, even without uniques, which is pretty nice to see, since that means I can continue to go until the unique is dropped and still make at least a little bit of money here. That's going to be the end of this week's video though. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please drop a like and subscribe. And also feel free to leave me a comment letting me know what you liked or didn't like about the video. I'm glad to be getting back into making content, as it is really fun and gives me ideas of what to do in the game. I'll also be streaming every Friday at 9:30 p.m. Central Time, so if you can't wait the time for the next video to come out, stop on by and say hello. I've got my Twitch link below, as well as my Discord channel, so if you're looking for a place to chat, or just to have a say in what content comes out next, be sure to join in. The next video won't have a poll, but that's just to reduce the amount of time that I have to spend trying to make these make sense, but I will try to have more polled videos in the future. Hope to see you guys in the Discord, and as always, take care and thank you for watching.